Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Geno Reynolds and this is WAD Presents The Real Geno. Today we're going to take a look at a sequel that I wasn't sure if it was even going to happen or not. Today let's talk about Extraction 2 on Netflix. So let's do this.
Tyler, you were clinically dead 9 months ago. But you survived. You fought your way back. You just have to find out why.
Taking place over 9 months after the events of the first movie, that number will be important here in a minute, Tyler Rake has survived what was thought to be fatal wounds he had received at the end of that film. After pretty much giving up on life because how his injuries has left him, a personal mission comes his way that makes him find a reason to fight again. One Rocky IV style training montage later, and it's go time. Alright, let's get this movie math out of the way first. I went back and watched parts of my review of the first movie and had this to say about the movie's ending. Be warned that this is a major spoiler for the first movie if you plan to watch it first, which you should. So why did it get knocked down a few pegs for me? And here is where I'm going to get into big time spoiler territory. So again, I recommend this movie. If you don't want to know any more, there's not going to be anything else you're going to want to know if you don't want anything spoiled. So are you still with me? Here we go. Okay, the ending. Well, I won't give it all away. I just want to talk about, just the last, 5 seconds of this movie. Because it's what really, really, Netflix, you had to do that. Okay, so at the end of the movie, the kid is safe, and it's 8 months later. And earlier in the movie, here's big time spoiler, Chris Hemsworth's character sacrifices himself to save the kid. He basically goes and just holds off the bad guys so the kid can get away and get to Hemsworth's team. And the kid is safe, and it shows him in the water. It's mimicking a scene that Chris Hemsworth character does earlier, where he kind of sits underwater and is calm and everything. And he comes up, but then he looks to his right, and there's a blurry figure that may or may not be Chris Hemsworth's character. Netflix, look, Sam Hargrave did an interview where he said, we had an ending where Chris Hemsworth's character is dead and people just didn't seem to like it. Maybe he should have survived. So Netflix and we all wanted to make everybody happy, right? We came up with this other ending, this ambiguous ending. This movie did not need an ambiguous ending. It's fine that the character died. He sacrificed himself. His character loses his son, right, to lymphoma. And he wasn't even there when the kid died. He wasn't there he wouldn't have been able to save him or anything, but he wasn't even there for the kid. He was there for this kid, and he saved this kid, and he was okay with dying. It would have been fine. That's really how the movie should have ended. Granted, or if you wanted to show that it was him and somehow he did survive, that's not as good, but it works. But this blurry, he may or may not be alive in case this movie does well and we want to make a sequel, BS ending, just really knocked this movie down a few pegs for me. So yeah, the end of the first movie says that Ovi sees the figure 8 months after Tyler Rake was thought to be dead. This movie says that Rake was in a coma for 9 months and then goes to recover in Austria. So I guess Ovi was just seeing things and Rake was still alive anyway? Maybe it was a vision of some kind. I don't know. Here's the thing though, after seeing Extraction 2, I really didn't mind anymore. Extraction 2 is one of those sequels that could be considered just as good as the first movie and then some. It took what really worked in the first film and gave us more of what worked in the first one and then turned it up to 11. The action is way bigger this time around, which is hard to say given what happened in the first movie. I don't want to spoil much about what happens action-wise for you because it is so good, but I will say that the whole prison escape is really fantastic. If you remember the all-in-one-shot action scenes from the first movie, you'll know how good they can be. I would compare these scenes to the insanity of the third act chase scene from John Wick Chapter 4, which, coming from me, that's pretty high praise. So the action's good, but Geno, you ask, what about the story? Just like the first movie, this one has a really great story to tell as well. Playing off the loss of his son and his divorce from the first movie, the reason that Rake finds to fight is that his new mission involves his ex-wife. No, this doesn't get as ridiculous as, say, Taken 3 or anything like that. The mission involves Rake having to save his ex's sister and her kids from their Georgian gangster husband and father. He's locked up in a Georgian prison but has his family in there trapped with him. Because he feels guilty about what happened between him, his ex-wife, and his son, Rake takes the mission and takes it personal. This ends up giving Rake a new reason to live. If he was to have stayed in the state he was in, he possibly would have been a victim of self-harm. While you can tell that the mission in the first movie did become personal, the mission in this one feels that way from the very start. There are action scenes in this that would have put down even a normal movie hero, but not Tyler Rake. At times, one of the family members he is trying to rescue gets into trouble and Rake fights off anything that would put him down to help them. And I don't mean in the cheesy action hero way either. You can tell he's damaged and may even die, but it doesn't stop him anyway. This makes a really great character even better. Again, I find myself comparing him to John Wick in this way. Unlike the first movie, this one definitely has another sequel in mind. Now, will Rake be involved in the sequel? You'll have to find out if he can cheat death again by watching this one. There are the returning sibling teammates Nick and Yaz Khan in this sequel, and they play a pretty big role in this story. Also, Idris Elba turns up in this, giving us a bit of a Heimdall-Thor reunion. Given that the Russo brothers wrote this movie, this wouldn't come as a shock to anyone. Elba's character seems to be one of those Phil Coulson type of spook agents who then teases his boss, which if it turns out to be Sam Jackson in a Nick Fury type of boss role, it wouldn't be much of a surprise. It'd be an awesome surprise, but a predictable one. So if it isn't pretty obvious, you should be watching both of these movies. If you haven't seen the first one, do yourself a favor and give it a look. Even though the ending doesn't factor into the sequel, it didn't really matter to me in the end because Extraction 2 is just that good. Not only do you get insane action, but a fantastic continuation to the story set up in the first movie. Chris Hemsworth, as well as everyone else in the film, are really great at getting you emotionally involved in the characters. Even some of the villains do this. Being that you can catch this one and the first one on Netflix, the price is definitely right for everything you get. If you like action, you need to check these two movies out. Again, you can catch them both on Netflix right now. Make sure to follow me at WANDTV.com as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Real Geno. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, also at The Real Geno. That's going to be it for this edition of WAND Presents The Real Geno. As always, I am your host, The Real Geno, Geno Reynolds. Till next time.